Hello, everyone. My name is Rayan Hassan, and I'm going to present my research project on investigating LinkedIn jobs as a job search interface for early career tech applicants. So, my research question asks how early career tech applicants experience friction and uncertainty when using LinkedIn jobs. It matters because job searching is already stressful and ambiguous, especially for students and recent graduates who may not yet know how to evaluate job postings, interpret requirements, or even determine whether they are qualified. My scope is focused on the interaction between the user and the LinkedIn jobs interface. So not studying the entire hiring process or like recruiter behavior or applicant tracking system in general. I'm specifically looking at the user experience of searching for jobs, interpreting results, using filters, reading postings, and deciding whether to apply or not. Why does this ma a problem matter? Um, it matters because LinkedIn Jobs is not just a neutral search tool. For many early career applicants, myself included, it shapes how we understand like the job market and how we see ourselves as candidates. And it can be confusing and it can also sometimes not give us the, proper results that we're looking for. Um, a confusing interface can lead to users to miss relevant roles, apply to poorly matched jobs, or even lose self-confidence. So, for example, if a posting says entry level but asks for 3 years of experience, the user has to interpret whether that is a hard requirement or just a preference, and that's something that happened to me several times. I would be looking for uh, early, entry level positions, and then I'd be shocked to see that some of or most of the suggestions that I get are or require 2 to 3 years of experience, which is, very frustrating. Also, for users from different countries or language backgrounds, this can become even more difficult because job titles, degree expectations, and work authorization may not be, you know, suitable or familiar. Um, so my research looks at both interface usability and the cognitive burden placed on users. All right. Now to talk about the initial observations. Um, Several friction points emerged. First, search results often feel too broad. Like I mentioned, a user may search for data analyst, entry level, or software engineer, for example, new grad, but they might receive something, completely different or something with higher seniority levels and different industries or skill expectations. Secondly, users struggle with vague or inconsistent job requirements. So a posting may, for example, ask for Python, SQL, cloud tools, and machine learning, but it is not always clear which skills are required and which are optional. And in fact, sometimes they just list a bunch of skills and then um, it becomes like almost like a just a bunch of bullet points that don't necessarily go with the job description, which gets also even more confusing and frustrating. Now, the third point is that the filters available on LinkedIn do not always match what applicants actually care about. So, for example, users may care about sponsorship, true entry-level status, salary transparency, um, or whether the role is realistically open to recent graduates. Um, and these concerns are not always easy to filter for. Finally, users often have difficulty deciding whether they are qualified enough to apply. This creates hesitation and, load and pressure during the job search process. All right, now let's take a look at the participant profiles and ecosystem for my research. So my target participants are early career applicants in technology-related fields. So this includes undergraduate students, master's students, recent graduates, and people with limited professional experience. I'm interested in including participants from different geographic and location backgrounds as well, because LinkedIn is used globally, not just in the US. Um, but of course, I mean, job market norms are not universal. So, for example, an international student may interpret job requirements in sponsorship language um, or location expectations differently from a domestic applicant. The broader the ecosystem includes the broader ecosystem includes job seekers, recruiters, employers, LinkedIn as the platform, universities, and applicant tracking systems. Even though my study focuses on job seekers, these other stakeholders influence the experience, of course. Recruiters and employers decide how postings are written, while LinkedIn decides how those postings are displayed, filtered, and recommended. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the literature review and the related works. This is something that I had already mentioned in the phase one of this project, but I'm going to iterate a bit more about it here. So my literature review connects this project to several HCI concepts. First, we have Nielsen's usability heuristics that help us evaluate whether the interface provides clear feedback, consistent information, and language that match users' expectations. And then second, we have cognitive load theory, which is important because job searching requires users to process a lot of information at once. Job title, company, location, skills, salary, seniority, etc. So if the interface does not organize this information well, users may feel overwhelmed and confused. Third, I have foraging theory that helps explain how users scan search results and decide which postings are worth opening. In a job search context, users often make fast judgments based on titles, company names, labels, and snippets. And finally, research and digital labor platforms, which help frame LinkedIn jobs as more than a simple website. It's a platform that influences visibility, opportunity, and user behavior. Now, here are some of the research gaps that I found. A lot of existing research looks at job platforms, recommendation system, algorithmic fairness, and employment outcomes. However, my project focuses on the user's immediate interaction experience. So I'm interested in the smaller but important moments. So, like, for example, what happens when a user sees 500 results? What makes them click one job and ignore another one? How do they interpret a role that says entry level but asks for years and years of experience? Uh, or like, how do they decide whether to apply or not? So my contribution is to study how interface design shapes uncertainty and decision making for early applicants. Now here's the experimental study methodology. For the next phase, I plan to conduct a moderate qualitative study. So participants will use LinkedIn jobs while thinking aloud. I will ask them to complete realistic job search tasks, like for example, finding an entry-level tech role, using few filters, opening a job posting, and deciding whether they would apply or not. The think aloud method is I'm going to use it because I'm not only interested in what the user clicks, but I really want to understand what they are thinking and when they encounter like confusing job titles, unclear requirements, or overwhelming search results. After the tasks, I will ask follow-up questions to understand their confidence, frustration, and interpretation of the interface. Uh, my analysis will primarily be qualitative, but I will also collect some simple quantitative measures. For example, I can track how long it takes participants to find a job they consider relevant, or like how many postings they open, or how often they express uncertainty. I will also ask participants to rate their confidence and mental effort after completing tasks. For qualitative analysis, I will use thematic coding. This means I will look for repeated patterns across participants, like confusion about seniority or difficulty using the filters or unclear skill requirements, um, etc. And I will then map these findings back to HCI concepts like visibility, consistency, cognitive load, and match between system language and user expectations. For the methodological apparatus and limitations, um, my study setup is relatively lightweight. I will use just screen recording, observation notes, and the structured interview protocol. Participant will interact with LinkedIn jobs in a realistic way while I observe and ask them to think out loud. These are some of our limitations. So my sample size will likely be small. Um, so the findings will not be statistically, what's the word? Generalizable. So again, that's it's fine, but that's worth mentioning that it's one of the limitations. Also, the LinkedIn search results can vary based on the user's profile, location, and previous activities, which means that not every participant will have the or will see the same results. That's also worth mentioning. Another limitation is observer effect. So participants may behave differently because they know they are being watched. Uh, so so yeah, and then finally we have the international or multilingual users. Some difficulties may come from broader labor market barriers rather than the interface alone. So I will need to separate interface related friction from external job market constraints when analyzing the data. All right, now for the conclusion. My project investigates LinkedIn jobs as an important HCI system for early tech or early career tech applicants. The job search process is not only about finding information, it's also about interpreting unclear requirements, making decisions under uncertainty, and managing confidence. My next phase will use moderated user sessions, think aloud protocol, and thematic analysis to study where friction occurs and why. The goal is to produce research findings that are grounded in user behavior and HCI theory rather than jumping directly to solutions. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching and bye.